The Appalachian Mountains stood ancient and imposing, cloaked in an eerie silence. Among the peaks, shrouded in mist and shadow, loomed Raven's Peak, a mansion of dark stone. Its silhouette was a jagged wound against the twilight sky. Locals whispered of the mansion, abandoned for decades, its windows like vacant eyes. They spoke of tragedy, of madness, of whispers carried on the wind. Raven's Peak, they said, was a place where darkness lingered. 5 friends, young and fueled by a sense of invincibility, decided to confront the legend. Drawn by the thrill of the unknown, they sought to debunk the myths surrounding Raven's Peak. Mark, Emily, Chris, Jessica and Ashley, armed with cameras and flashlights, arrived at the foot of the mansion's long, winding drive. Their laughter seemed to evaporate in the heavy air, replaced by an unsettling quiet. A challenge, a dare, had brought them to this place. They were about to learn that some legends are best left undisturbed. The massive oak door creaked open as if inviting them in. Dust motes danced in the pale slivers of light that penetrated the gloom. The air inside was stagnant, thick with the smell of decay and neglect. Cobwebs clung to every surface, and the silence was broken only by the sound of their own breathing. Stepping across the threshold, the friends felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. It was as though the house itself was watching them, its unseen eyes following their every move. Hours melted into an unsettling blur as they explored the mansion. Each room seemed to mirror the last, grand yet decaying, filled with the remnants of a forgotten life. Hallways stretched impossibly long, twisting back on themselves in a disorienting maze. The shadows seemed to shift and deepen, playing tricks on their eyes. A sense of unease settled upon the group, a growing certainty that they were not alone within the mansion's walls. In a dusty attic room, they stumbled upon a hidden compartment behind a faded tapestry. Inside lay a leather-bound diary, its pages brittle with age. The spidery handwriting spoke of Elias Ravenwood, the original owner of the mansion, and his descent into madness. He wrote of strange occurrences, of whispers in the night, of the house itself seeming to turn against him. As they read, the friends felt a cold dread creep up their spines. The words on the page were more than just the ramblings of a madman. They were a chronicle of the darkness that permeated Raven's Peak. Panic began to set in as the friends realized the truth in Ravenwood's words. The mansion was not just a house, it was a living entity, feeding on their fear. One by one, their numbers dwindled. Chris vanished without a trace, his laughter swallowed by the oppressive silence. Then Jessica, her scream echoing through the empty halls before being abruptly cut off. The remaining friends searched frantically, their calls swallowed by the oppressive silence. The mansion, it seemed, was claiming them one by one. Section 7. Lost and Alone. Emily found herself separated from the others, lost in a labyrinth of corridors. Each turn led to another dead end. Each doorway opened into the same desolate room. Panic tightened its grip, her breath catching in her throat. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her own heartbeat. She was utterly alone, trapped within the belly of a beast that fed on her terror. Section 8. A glimmer of hope, extinguished. A flicker of light ahead spurred her on. "Mark!" She called his name, her voice hoarse with fear and relief. He stood at the end of the hallway, his face pale and drawn in the flickering candlelight. But as she approached, a horrifying realization dawned. His eyes were vacant, his smile cruel and cold. He was gone, his body a puppet controlled by the malevolent force that held sway over Raven's Peak. Section 9. The mansion's embrace. Emily backed away, stumbling over her own feet. The diary's words echoed in her mind, a chilling premonition of her fate. The mansion wanted her, needed her fear to fuel its dark existence. She turned and ran, her breath ragged in her throat, but the hallways shifted and twisted, leading her in an endless circle. The darkness closed in, a suffocating embrace that promised oblivion. As the shadows claimed her, she heard a voice, smooth and seductive, whispering in her ear, "Welcome home, Emily." Section 10. Raven's Peak Remains. The sun rose on a silent mountain, the mist clinging to Raven's Peak like a shroud. The mansion stood untouched, its secrets locked within its cold stone heart. The whispers on the wind carried the story of the 5 friends who dared to challenge the legend, a cautionary tale for those foolish enough to believe they could conquer the darkness. For Raven's Peak was not just a place, it was an entity, a devourer of souls. And it would continue to stand there, silent and watchful, waiting for its next victims.